Hi everybody, Josiah here, also known as Chilling Silence on behalf of the DigiByte Foundation. And today I want to have a chat with you about Binance and about listing on exchanges. So you can see all the way back here in February of this year, I wrote my first piece, I suppose, on Medium about the ongoing listing attempts for Binance. To sum it up, down the bottom here, if Binance decide they want to list DigiByte, they are more than welcome to do so on their own accord, and we're willing to engage them. So this was me specifically writing it for myself, and assist them in the off chance that they actually need it. Now, why have I written that? Because I've also written up here as an open source decentralized UTXO blockchain based on the original technology that powers both Bitcoin and Litecoin. Any exchange that supports Bitcoin or Litecoin should have minimal effort to include support for DigiByte. Fantastic. So, what's prompted all of this? A couple of tweets showing up on Twitter here. So, from Jared, I'm going to quickly read through this and offer my 2 cents, I suppose, as we go. So, number 1 of 8, it's time to set the Binance record straight and let the world know the truth. The Binance DGB story starts with us refusing to pay the listing fee last summer and fall, and continuing to refuse to pay it for the last 12 months. Now, this is correct. The number was never officially disclosed, basically, because no NDAs were signed on the DigiByte side or anything along those lines, no confidentiality agreements. We never got the final number. I'll carry on, though. Several key members of the DigiByte community were accused of being Chinese spies and WeChat groups attempting to undermine CZ. None of us were ever part or aware of that, since none of us use WeChat. Major miscommunications. Now, that's true, basically, back last year when this all started, around about sort of June or July, give or take. The only thing was Telegram, basically. There wasn't even a Discord back then. Reddit was pretty dead. Everybody was all on Telegram. I've since found out there have been additional WeChat groups and things that have started up. I've been in them, a couple of them myself. I don't use WeChat, so I've now deleted WeChat and everything. But basically, there was a couple of people in there, and the people who were involved with DigiByte and have been for several years, not on those WeChat groups. Anyways, so if we continue down here, Binance used our social media attention for the Citibank Tech for Integrity. This is the T4I event in 2017 to gain attention for itself. In fact, I'm pretty sure when you originally would share your referral code, it would give you hashtag DGB on the default, I suppose, tweet that they recommended. Several Twitter polls, one for DigiByte, listing was promised. Guess what never happened? Now, a lot of that, I suppose, is because the listing fee was never paid. So in the smaller group, basically, a bit of chat went back and forth. And one of the members there from Binance, her name is Ashley. She's involved with the listing team. She basically said, okay, cool, this is all good. You've won. Congratulations. Now sign the NDA and pay the listing fee and just decide which one you want in terms of the different listing types that are offered. And away you go. Now, naturally, that didn't sit too well, given they had told us that we had won the vote and would be listed. Now to be told, hey, congratulations, you've won a free carpet clean, and by the way, you've got to go over here and, pay to have all of your carpets cleaned. That's that kind of a scam. So, anyway, down the bottom here, many members of the DigiByte community repeatedly filled out multiple applications of listing from Binance, jumping through many ridiculous and unprofessional hoops that are completely hypocritical considering the projects that they have later added. I myself have been directly involved in the completion of a number of these. I have filled out, I think, 3 in total. 2 of them were for standard listings. One was a community coin vote, or perhaps it's the other way around. In addition, there was one that I was also involved in recently as well, basically just as a kind of offering people advice who were also wanting to fill in the form. You can actually see I've got a bit of a screenshot from here, Binance Community Coin application form. So I completed this, and this in particular says down the bottom here, your response has been received. Thank you for your ongoing support of Binance. It's a Google form with a fancy header. So anyway, back to here. Throughout the fall of 2017 and beginning of 2018, several fraudulent ICOs were added, pumped, and dumped on Binance, further entrenching and frustrating many DigiByte community members. So anybody who's part of the DigiByte community who's been around for more than a couple of months, or who is genuinely interested in the actual project itself and not just in a quick buy it on one exchange, get it added to Binance, wait for a pump, and and get rid of it. Anybody who's genuinely interested in the project will have seen this kind of happening and basically know that Binance has a bit of a name for themselves. So anyway, he carries on. Here is a detailed written example of specific instances of this pump and dump activity. So this lists Syscoin. There's a couple of others here in the Medium article, which I won't go into, but basically you can see here a whole lot of trading activity. Guess what day this particular coin was added onto Binance? I wonder. Anyway, 7 of 8. Many of us realize this particular behavior is not sustainable on any exchange and holds back the entire industry from really thriving. Nevertheless, we attempted to bury the hatchet and encourage more positivity in the community. So you'll notice I'd also actually done some similar but unrelated messages on Medium, basically going, what kind of a community do we actually want to be? Do we want to be one that's known for basically always just bashing every single other blockchain, or do we want to be a positive community that helps people out, but one that also warns people of scams? Take a guess. Anyway, so I was told this week, and this is Jared speaking, that if I publicly apologize to CZ for the mistakes of refusing to pay a bribe and calling out the pump and dump activity, that they might consider adding DigiByte in a few months. Guess what's probably not going to happen now? Anyway, so I wrote a bit of an article a little while ago, DigiByte listing on Binance and EasyCrypto.nz. So this was all the way back in May. Again, back in May, people asking they needed to be listed on Binance for liquidity reasons. Anyway, so we took a look at the most recent listing, which was Bitcoin, BCN. They got listed, and guess what happened? Price carrying along pretty stable down there, and all of a sudden, skyrockets, and all the way back down, back up again, and then it drops. And that's basically pretty par for the course with every sort of listing, I suppose. Again, similar sort of things here with Tron, and I carry on basically, and I say, look, what you could do is you could list similar to what EasyCrypto did. Any exchange can list DigiByte. We are a decentralized cryptocurrency. We require no permission, and anybody who's been around in this kind of, I suppose, blockchain space for any amount of time would understand that you can list pretty much any cryptocurrency to buy and sell. It's not a problem at all. So anyway, there's a few other things that I want to go through. Oh, sorry, the reason I mentioned EasyCrypto is because they did list us. They listed us without telling us. There's New Zealand dollar to DigiByte purchasing options. And they did it without even contacting, say, for example, anybody in the foundation, or without contacting Jared or anything like that at all, as a listing should happen. If they needed technical advice, then great, we're absolutely here for them, especially the DigiByte Foundation, people in the development channel, the support channel, we're all here to help. But they didn't need to, and so they just listed it, and that's how an exchange listing should be. Now, people will also argue, well, what about when all of the time that they have to invest in actually listing a cryptocurrency? The amount of time is actually negligible. It's a lot of copy and paste in the back end of copying from, say, Bitcoin to Litecoin, and then to Vertcoin, and then to DigiByte, and then to Dogecoin. For the most part, there's not a lot that actually goes on in terms of listing you and getting you set up in that respect. It's not involved at all, and to be honest, a competent exchange could list somebody like DigiByte in a day, quite happily. And should they be reimbursed, obviously, for their time and for including DigiByte? Yeah, absolutely they should. But that's why they get exchange fees. That's why every time you make a trade, they take a small fraction of it. Usually somewhere around 0.25%, they'll end up keeping for themselves out of every single trade it is that you do when you're buying and you're selling. So they make a boatload of money. In fact, the really funny thing is, I think back when I wrote, which article was it? I think it might have been this one back in February. I did the math, and around about the time, had Binance actually listed us, they would have made back, based on their trading fees, if they were doing around about the same as, say, Bittrex or Poloniex, they would have made that money back in the space of about 48 hours. So, yeah, we were talking, I believe the calculation was around about 100 grand they'd be making per day from trade fees. So, they're cutting off their nose to spite their face, in all reality. Anyway, so I suppose the other thing that I'd like to comment as well about that is there are exchanges that won't list DigiByte because we are on too many other exchanges. Currently we're on 80 different exchanges, and to that I basically would say that speaks more about their exchange than it does about DigiByte itself. People don't decide that they don't want to list Bitcoin because Bitcoin's on too many exchanges. The reason why exchanges would not want to list DigiByte, because we're on too many, is because they themselves don't actually have any point of difference or differentiator or anything along there which makes it special, which is why people would want to use your exchange over an already established one, such as Bittrex or Poloniex or any of the others that offer existing fiat to DigiByte pairings. So now let's get into some of the interesting stuff here. So this is where CZ comes out and basically says, while we try not to publicly comment on any coin, good or bad, some don't leave us much choice. I feel bad for the people who honestly tried to help with the DigiByte listing. Oh, here we go. They've mentioned Tommy. Tommy was one of the guys that I was helping a month or two back with some of the details for the DigiByte blockchain, who was trying to get us listed. Excuse me. Now, Jared's gone and made a comment here, and CZ has basically responded. Now, he's also said down here, Tommy is a good guy. That's why I feel bad for him. If some people just kept quiet. Such an easy thing. So CZ is basically coming out and saying, we want people to toe the line. We want people to be yes sir kind of people that will not ever question us, that will overlook anything at all, that's not going to, stir the pot or anything at all like that. That doesn't seem like the kind of thing that I personally would ever want to get involved with. So he's basically saying if some people just kept quiet, and really trying to throw Jared under the bus, unjustly so, in my opinion, because Jared is simply calling it as he sees it. He's calling the shots, like they are, really. So why would somebody who's a CEO want somebody else to basically keep quiet? Now, this is especially important when you are a decentralized cryptocurrency. Yes, Jared is the founder of DigiByte, but he founded it. If Jared's run over by a bus tomorrow, heaven forbid, will he will DigiByte stop? No, it'll carry on. It'll continue without him. What would happen tomorrow if I was run over on my way walking out of the building here? Absolutely nothing. DigiByte would still continue just fine. There is no central company or entity that is what makes this thrive. Now, the other thing that you can do is you can look at Dogecoin, for example. Basically, Jackson Palmer created Dogecoin, and they did a little bit. They had a bit of problems back in the day, and DigiByte actually stepped in and helped with DigiShield. And then after that, they changed and they became merge mining with Litecoin. But since then, there's not really been a whole lot of development update. It's basically just carried on. Now, is anybody going to look at Dogecoin and basically say it's a dead project, it's gone, and well, I mean, aside from the fact that it's a bit of a meme coin, it's further proof that it is, Jackson Palmer basically started it and he's off. He's walked away. He has no interest in Dogecoin. And the same Jared does have interest, obviously, in DigiByte. He wants to see it succeed. But you get my point. He's the founder, but it doesn't mean that it's a centrally pre-mined coin, which requires his day-to-day input in absolutely everything. We are a decentralized blockchain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to really quickly run through a couple of other tweets here and things, which add some interesting comments, I thought. Now, this is Joshua Bow, and I believe he is from Blackcoin. So, he says here, I agree with Binance. I agree with DigiByte. Binance is shady as fuck. You can win the community vote to get listed, but they make you sign an NDA. Afterwards, they require you to pay a hefty fee in Bitcoin for the integration costs. Now, as I mentioned before, you can integrate DigiByte, or as far as I'm aware, Blackcoin is also based off of the Bitcoin codebase. So to integrate them, we're talking, several hours, which they'll make back in trading fees quite easily. Anyway, he goes on, if you do not pay the integration fee, remember, you're under NDA, and this is all on you, the developer. They threatened to say that you didn't cooperate with Binance for your listing, and they threatened to make you look very bad in the eyes of your community. You can't even tell your community that they wanted money. Now, the reason that we've obviously, I suppose, discovered that Ashley and CZ were involved in this listing fee request from DigiByte is because we hadn't signed any NDAs and other confidentiality agreements at the time that they gave us. Basically, it was a sheet of paper, almost a PDF, I believe, that sort of said, these are our different listing options, so you can list with this, or you can list and we'll tell our community about you, and that sort of jazz. Anyway, I've seen more and more projects that didn't sign the NDA, like us, he's talking about Blackcoin, because I don't trust anyone related to OKCoin and the Chinese crypto mafia. I don't know anything about OKCoin myself, so I can't comment there, unfortunately. Anyway, Joshua carries on, I believe the whole "we are now donating to charity" thing is just a PR stunt. I agree. It's ridiculous, and CZ himself basically has started up a charity which, as far as I'm aware, is kind of like co-owned by the president of Malta or something along those lines. I'm not entirely too sure. But the two people have been getting very chummy lately, and I'm skeptical. Anyway, now this is done purposely so that their shady deals don't blow up in their face, and they can say, "Oh yeah, we used to, but now it's okay. We donate the money and things." Yeah. So Joshua carries on, I've actively been open with our community about why we won't ever submit Blackcoin to Binance. We don't support criminals. Cool, so he is from Blackcoin. Anyway, I know most of the guys that run the Chinese crypto scene. I was invited to go meet them about Blackcoin in 2014 and make it the next big thing. Basically, they over there they use a lot of things like WeChat, for example, and they are very community driven, and there's a lot of kind of not so much pump and dumps, but I suppose word travels incredibly fast over there through that kind of thing, and so you get a few people and they'll start messaging another person who message another community, who will then message another community, and word spreads very quickly. Anyway, he says, yeah, basically they're incredibly shady. Crypto Maverick comes down and he basically says, very happy with Bittrex, and Joshua agrees, Bittrex are great, long-time pals with some badass people in general. Much love to Bill, Richie, and sometimes Rami. Yeah, I've had a bit of a chat with them. They're great people. Fantastic. Bill, for example, from Bittrex knows his stuff. Very, very incredible, clever dude, and I have a lot of time for the Bittrex people. They're an absolutely fantastic exchange. Anyway, but we'll carry on really quickly. Need a Coin says, I don't pick sides, but I think the truth is DigiByte has outlasted most exchanges. Yes, now, so we were originally added to Bittrex and Poloniex all the way back in very early 2014, and we've seen exchanges come, we've seen exchanges go. Everything from Mt. Gox, was it MintPal or something? There's been a number of different exchanges that have come and gone, and more will come and go too. It's been really great for Binance that they've been able to ride on the back of the success of DigiByte last year around the Citibank Tech for Integrity Challenge time, and use that momentum to basically launch themselves through Twitter and other things. You know, good for them. It's really unfortunate that they have since turned their back on DigiByte, but you know, whatever. If they're going to use DigiByte in their social media campaigns, then as a decentralized cryptocurrency, we can't stop them, really. Anyway, so this is really quite interesting from John here. The tweet from Binance basically says they're donating all of them to charity. Interesting that they don't mention that it is their own charity, but, you know, nonetheless, whatever. John here basically says, why not just remove the listing fees if you don't need them? That's a really good question. Why don't they just remove the listing fees if they don't need them? Why don't they tell us how much listing fees were paid previously? They'll basically, actually, I'll tell you what, I'll come back to that in a minute. Anyway, Joseph here says, even after Binance does this wonderful thing by donating the crypto listing fees to charity, the charity in which the CEO himself is on board and part of, some people are complaining that Binance took fees from projects. So what? Why is it wrong? Well, it's not wrong, and it's great that they did take fees, and that was how they were able to subsequently establish themselves as a large exchange, because they took those fees from all of the ICOs. Now, the ICO launch bandwagon has relatively dried up, so listing fees are not being paid so much, especially with things like the price of Ethereum going all the way down by 80% or whatever it is, where people had previously, let's say they'd gone and got themselves 100 million, that 100 million might now only be worth 20 million. So anyway, this pre-mine apologist says here it's not wrong, it's a free market. The problem is that Binance specifically incentivizes centralized pre-mine projects over fair chance, trustless, distributed, decentralized projects without giant bags of printed cash. Oh, that's a mouthful. By doing that, Binance exposes customers to unsecure networks. Yeah, I like that. And then down here, Bob says, never looked at it that way, great input. Yeah, so basically you are prioritizing the 100% pre-mines and things like that, where you're literally, it's kickstarting somebody else's project or their idea, because they will have those great central, I suppose, war chests of funds. Anyway, this is really interesting. Here it is. So, BitLord, how about you make all the previous listing fees and agreements public? Not doing so would indicate you have something to hide. And CZ basically says, because we've got confidentiality clauses. Yeah, that's not entirely, you know, they could Yeah, they could very easily go, and doesn't matter about the NDA, they could still list and make mention. This is a total of how much we have taken over, let's say 2017, and then another one for 2018, or even just in total, or here's an average, or something along those lines. But the total paid in exchange fees is not covered. Can you give us this number? Yeah, so they could do that, and it wouldn't break confidentiality agreements in any way, shape, or form. That would be totally acceptable. I know, I've seen their confidentiality agreements and what they're asking for. Anyway, Spooky White Dog. He mentions it in an interview with Laura Shin. I think it's around 200,000. I'm presuming that's USD. I was under the impression it was between 100, 150,000 US dollars, but maybe it went up and down a little bit depending on what the price of Bitcoin was doing at the time, sort of thing. We know how much it went up and down, last year and things. So interesting. Here we go. I am Nomad. Binance owns the Blockchain Charity Foundation, correct? They're donating all of their fees to themselves. How interesting. Can't possibly imagine what kind of an administration fee is going to be charged by this Blockchain Charity Foundation. Anyway, I like this one. Daniel basically says, this isn't a listing fee just part of business, Jared. Why can't you sell some of your own DigiByte to pay for listing fees? Well, yeah, a listing fee might be part of business, might be part of some businesses. It's definitely not a requirement. Jared replies and says, I'm not sure you understand how a decentralized blockchain works. That's not a company that's been around for almost 5 years. I wish I had a massive stash like many founders, but I don't. So back in the day, DigiByte had a 0.5% pre-mine. Of that, 0.25%, which is 50% of the pre-mine, was given away to the community, basically, and to encourage people to download the full wallet back in the day and start seeding the blockchain. Back in 2014, a lot of projects had problems where people wouldn't actually download the wallets. We would see them die off. So this was a semi-common thing for a very small pre-mine to occur. The other 0.25%, which is the remaining 50% of the pre-mine, basically went to an external third-party developer, completely unrelated to the project, in order to get the first Android application created. And they subsequently sold off that DigiByte. I think it was towards the end of 2014. So there is effectively no pre-mine, and I know for a fact that Jared also pays for things out of his own pocket. Certain servers like the DigiExplorer.info server. It's not cheap. It can cost a lot of money to run that kind of thing, and he pays for it all himself. He doesn't have per block reward like the, let's say, Zcash founders do, where they get 20% of everything. Could you imagine if he got 20% of every newly minted DigiByte block? Oh, yeah, then he would be rich, and then maybe you would be able to pay for things like a listing fee or a bribe or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, Daniel carries on. I do understand how it works, but how can a coin expect special conditions for being decentralized? You like to be the center of DigiByte. What about all of us that have big money in it? I don't understand why you make listings harder. Well, who pays for listings for Bitcoin? Who pays for listings for Dogecoin? Nobody. Anyway, down there I basically said, if you've understood that, Daniel, then why have you not offered to pay the listing fee yourself? Often we've seen a lot of people that would say on Reddit, I'll donate, yay, I'll put money in towards it. Let's be honest, we're not going to raise $100,000. Why would somebody who already has DigiByte want to raise $100,000 or $200,000 for a listing on Binance? I can tell you, there's one good reason, because they expect the price to go up so they can sell it. You know what that's called? That's called a pump and dump. So anybody who doesn't have DigiByte, well, those are the kinds of people who might be interested. In fact, there was an exchange that was emailing me earlier in the week. Quite a large exchange, in fact, and they do DigiByte, they do fiat to DigiByte listings, or are going to at least. And they basically said, yeah, well, we need you to go and approach your community and ask them to crowdsource for this. Or we need you to take some of the funds that you've raised for development and give us, several Bitcoin. And so I said to them, why would we take our Bitcoin? Well, it's DigiByte, but why would we convert the DigiByte to Bitcoin and then give you the Bitcoin to be listed on an exchange where none of our users are currently? It's like, well, yeah, sure, they might bring in additional users. That's great, but why don't we approach those potential new users? Why would we take the funds that are for development, that people have given us for development improvements, and use it on exchange listings? That's not what it's for, and we would be terribly, terribly bad stewards if we did use it for it. So I suggested to them, I said, look, there's no reason for somebody who already owns DigiByte to want to then pay you so that you can then get more people on. It doesn't make any sense at all. Anyway, we'll quickly carry on. So this was an interesting one. Christopher Franco, I'm not too sure where he's from. He says he's the CEO of Borderless Corp. Anyway, CEO of Borderless Corporation says, can confirm everything you say is true. This was Joshua from before from Blackcoin. I've been approached by multiple Chinese market makers that wanted to make EXP the Chinese Ethereum. They wanted the keys to our dev fund so they could control the dump. The Chinese crypto syndicate is as real as can be. And Joshua down here basically kind of backs him up. So I think we'll start to wrap this up really quickly here. Joshua talks about the NDA. I'm not too sure why I've got this up twice. Anyway. So BitLord basically says here, the coin and the community is bigger than its founders or current developers. I don't hold any DigiByte, but blacklisting a project because someone was not so kind is backwards. Aren't you all for decentralization in crypto in general? That makes a lot of sense to me. Why would you take what one person has said, especially when we're talking about a decentralized blockchain, a decentralized cryptocurrency, and use that as basically leverage to what? What do they really gain out of this? What do Binance think they're actually going to get out of this? So that's really kind of interesting. Anyway, I want to kind of wrap this up on a more positive note here. We had a message from 3BX. They responded to Jared and basically said the 3BX currently lists DigiByte coin within our trading platform, and it has been a pleasure working with the hashtag DigiByte team and DGB80 official. Binance who? So I want to thank 3BX and thank all of the other exchanges that we have that currently support DigiByte, and to basically to reaffirm to the community and basically say, look, it doesn't matter that one exchange has rejected DigiByte, especially seeing as they are trying to effectively extort large listing fees from a few certain individuals. Like, that's not the kind of thing that we should be proud of, and I think that this is actually fantastic that Jared has especially stood up to this and to call out CZ both on the nonsense about how he's not involved in the listing, because he clearly is, and also their listing strategy is pretty bad. And I don't think that anybody should be ashamed to actually call a spade and to be critical and to think logically and rationally and analytically most of all about this kind of thing. So to all of the exchanges that are out there that do support DigiByte, thank you. Thank you for listing a decentralized cryptocurrency and for not charging big listing fees and for, I suppose, getting on board with that community mentality, getting on behind the whole, we are a decentralized blockchain that anybody can build on, that anybody can use in their application, that anybody can list on their exchange, that anybody can buy and sell with nobody telling them what to do at any particular point in time. I think that's fantastic, and so I want to commend 3BX as well for that. So I hope this has been really educational, that you've learned a little bit about the history here, that you've maybe discovered a little bit about what went on behind closed doors, what's going on today, especially with this. We're going to carry on, and we're going to keep moving onwards and upwards. I know that we have also applied for listing at several other large exchanges, specifically in the United States, and we'll continue to remain transparent, or at least I know that I for sure as hell will, and from the looks of it, it seems Jared will too. So we're not here to basically shame Binance for wanting to ask for a fee. It's totally fine if they ask for a fee. It's also well within our right to refuse it, but it's all of the other shady backdoor dealings that have been going on and the expectation that we will bend the knee and things. That's what really needs to be brought to light here, I suppose. So if you do have any more questions, sing out in the comments below. I'll still be sticking around, I suppose, and answering any questions about this. Otherwise, jump on Telegram as always, or hit me up at DGB Chilling on Twitter. Talk to you in the next video. Peace.